Hi, everybody. This is What is the Constitution by Patricia Brennan Demuth, and we are now up to Lesson 8. This chapter is titled A Battle Between North and South, and we are going to get started again by looking at the pictures before we read the words as a way to get our brains ready. So if you have your copy of the book, you can grab it so you can maybe look at the pictures more closely and make sure you have your brain with you. All right, so once again, we're going to preview the chapter. The whole point of that is to get our brains engaged so that we can remember lots of things and connect with the things we already know. There are reading strategies that we'll be employing. We're going to look at the headings, photos, and illustrations. We're going to connect with the things we already know, and we're going to look at text features wherever they appear. All right, so why don't you turn to your book or follow along as I look at the pages. So this is chapter 5, and we can see there's a heading at the very top. Chapter 5, A Battle Between North and South. And this is a picture on page 50 and 51. It's one large picture that's spread out over these two pages. And a couple of things stand out right away. First of all, these people in this picture are dressed very differently than the people we've seen in the book so far. On the other pages, people had, as I kept saying, interesting clothing and hair. They were wearing fancy clothes, lots of layers. And in this case, you can see that's not what we're seeing at all. There's nobody wearing layers, fancy coats, and that sort of thing. In fact, like in this case, you can see this person. It looks like the pant legs are frayed, and this person too, you can see the pant legs are kind of torn up. This person's wearing suspenders. You can see this person appears to be barefoot. So this is these folks look very different from the people we've seen so far. Another thing that stands out from this picture is that most of the people appear to be doing something with what look to be very large leaves. In particular, I look at this one here. This looks like a big leaf. And some of these other ones, they look like large leaves. So it appears that they're doing something with those leaves. And then over here, we can see there's a person doing something with a large box of some kind. Or maybe that's a crate. And then if you look toward the back of the picture, you can see there's a person here on top of a horse, kind of looking in the direction of these folks over here. And then this looks some large building or a house or something that's here in the background. Okay, let's turn the page. And here we are on pages 52 and 53. On 52, we have another map. And that's handy, but there's no caption on the map, but we can notice some things about it. First of all, down here at the bottom, you can see there's a little caption or a little note, and the date 1787 is there. So that might imply that this map has to do with something happening in 1787. You can see there's lots of things labeled, so I don't need to label the map for us this time. You can see different states: New York, New Hampshire, Pennsylvania, Virginia, Delaware, Maryland, etc. In fact, RI right here for Rhode Island. Something else that's kind of interesting is that these states don't all have the same shape that they do now. For example, here's Connecticut right here, but here's Connecticut again over here, which is really strange. And then if you look at Virginia, Virginia is kind of stretched, and Georgia is stretched, and North Carolina is stretched compared to how we've seen them on previous maps. In addition, the map is divided up into several colors. This part is uncolored right over here. And then here we can see this is kind of a light gray color. It says Spanish Louisiana and Spanish Florida. And then we can see this is in an even darker color. And this color matches up with with this box here. And so these darkish areas then are states with gradual or full emancipation by 1787. Emancipation's a word that people don't use too much right now, and in case you didn't know, emancipation means the process of making someone free. So if somebody has been enslaved, or if somebody's been in jail, or they need to be freed from some other difficult situation, that's about the only time you'll ever hear the word emancipation. If we turn to page 53, you could notice that there's another portrait of a person, and thankfully it is labeled for us. Apparently this is Luther Martin, and Luther Martin definitely has some interesting hair and clothing. He has this kind of fancy collar that we were seeing in the illustrations of the framers. So perhaps this indicates that he is living during that time. And now let's turn the page here. On pages 54 and 55, there are no captions or anything except up in the corner up here, we can see it says Abraham Lincoln. And perhaps this person here is familiar to you. And so we might think, well, this must be Abraham Lincoln at work. Well, one thing that I can tell you that I know from this picture is that we can see here that Abraham Lincoln has a beard. And Abraham Lincoln, for most of his life, was a clean-shaven person, and he grew the beard right before he became elected president of the United States. So when you see pictures of Abraham Lincoln with a beard, that means he's the president at that time. So we have Abraham Lincoln, presumably here he's acting as president, so he's doing presidential work perhaps. We can see that he's seated at a desk and he's got something in his hand. It looks like he's writing, since there is stuff here, and then this part of the page is blank and he's holding something. It looks like it might be a pencil. Certainly not a quill pen, is it? And then you might notice that in the background there's shelves that have books on them, and there's a table that looks like it has a lamp on it. All right, let's turn to the very last page of this chapter. And you can see that it has a heading. It says slavery after 1787. So we saw a map earlier that referenced 1787, and here it's referenced again. And so that's the only thing that we have. It doesn't really tell us too much about this picture, though, if we're trying to figure out the picture. So it probably relates to slavery after 1787. If you take a good look at this picture, though, you can see there's a lot going on here. And we can see that there are guns. There's someone holding a gun, it looks like. And this is definitely a cannon right here. There's smoke here in the center. Here's a flag, and here's another flag. And you can see people are in action, so that this person is moving one direction. This person looks like they're moving this direction. And so this appears to be the scene of a battle. As I look at these flags a little bit more carefully, I notice that this flag looks like it resembles the Confederate flag. And we've seen examples of the Confederate flag from earlier in the year. And then over on this page, this appears to be a flag of the United States, that it's got, looks like a dark field with perhaps stars and stripes in it. Now, this particular page, it's in a different font from the other pages. So I'm going to go ahead and read this page because it does not quite connect with the other part of the text that we'll be reading in the next lesson. So you can read along with me. The Constitution also stated that the slave trade had to end in 1808. But that only meant that no new slaves would be brought into the country. By 1808, however, there were more than 4 million enslaved people in the United States. Wait, I got to reread that. By 1808, however, there were more than 4 million enslaved people in the United States. That's a lot. The issue of slavery never went away and kept splitting North and South further and further apart. Finally, the United States did break apart in the Civil War, 1861 to 1865. The Union won the war, and slavery was forever banned.